The morning sun cast long shadows across the military base on Kepler 442b. Soldiers from 12 different alien species moved through their daily routines, but everyone could feel the tension in the air. Today was different. Today, Princess Zara of the mighty Kellyan Empire would arrive to choose warriors for the most dangerous mission in galactic history. Ben Torres adjusted his combat gear for the third time in 10 minutes. His hands trembled slightly as he checked his weapon systems. At 22 years old, he was one of the youngest soldiers on the base. Most of his unit mates had years more experience fighting the mechanical plague that was slowly eating the galaxy alive. "Stop fiddling with that gear, kid," said Sergeant Riley, a gruff woman with scars covering her left arm. "You look fine." Ben nodded, but his stomach still churned with nervous energy. He had joined the Galactic Defense Force after watching the mechanical plague destroy his colony ship. 300 families had lived on that ship, including his parents and younger sister. Now they were gone, consumed by the endless hunger of the machine swarms. The mechanical plague had appeared 2 years ago in the Andromeda sector. At first, the Galactic Council thought it was just another hostile alien species. But these machines were different. They did not want territory or resources. They wanted life itself. The machines would arrive at a planet and begin converting all organic matter into more machines. Plants, animals, people, everything became fuel for their endless expansion. Entire star systems had gone dark as the plague spread from world to world. Traditional weapons barely slowed them down. Energy shields meant nothing to beings that could phase through solid matter. The greatest military minds in the galaxy had tried everything, but the plague continued to grow stronger. Then the Kellyan Empire made an ancient discovery. Deep in their oldest archives, they found references to something called the Void Temples. These mysterious structures supposedly held the power to stop any threat to organic life. But the temples had been lost for thousands of years. 3 months ago, a Kellyan exploration team found the temples on Terminus, a dead world at the edge of known space. The temples were still functional, but they demanded a price that no one understood. The ancient writings spoke of true sacrifice and the willing heart, but none of the galaxy's greatest scholars could figure out what this meant. Princess Zara had volunteered to lead an expedition to the temples. As a member of the Kellyan royal family, she possessed natural telepathic abilities that might help communicate with the ancient temple systems. But she needed warriors to protect her on the journey through plague-infested space. The princess had visited military bases across the galaxy, studying different species and their capabilities. The fierce Crothan warriors were famous for their strength and battle rage. The wise Melody people could solve complex puzzles and understand ancient technology. The shape-shifting Vortani could adapt to any environment. But according to rumors, Princess Zara had not selected anyone yet. Something was missing, though no one knew what. Ben tried to focus on his breathing as the morning briefing began. Commander Hayes, the human officer in charge of the base, stood before the assembled troops. Behind him, holographic displays showed the latest reports from the war front. "The situation continues to deteriorate," Commander Hayes announced. "The Rigel system fell yesterday. That brings the total lost systems to 47. At this rate, the plague will reach the core worlds within 6 months." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The core worlds housed billions of civilians from dozens of species. If the plague reached them, the war would effectively be over. However, the commander continued, "We have reason for hope. Princess Zara of the Kellyan Empire arrives today to select volunteers for her mission to the Void Temples. This may be our only chance to find a weapon that can stop the plague." Ben felt his heart beating faster. Every soldier in the room wanted to be chosen for this mission. It was dangerous, probably fatal, but it also represented hope. If someone could unlock the secrets of the Void Temples, the galaxy might be saved. The princess will address all personnel at 1400 hours, Commander Hayes said. Until then, continue normal operations. Dismissed. The soldiers began filing out of the briefing room, but Ben remained seated. He stared at the holographic display showing the plague's advance. Red dots marked infected systems, growing larger each day like a cancer spreading through the galaxy. Thinking about home? Asked a voice beside him. Ben turned to see Maria Santos, a human medic who had served with him for 8 months. She was older than Ben, maybe 30, with kind eyes that had seen too much suffering. Always, Ben replied. Sometimes I wonder if we're fighting for the dead or the living. Maria sat down next to him. Both, I think. We fight so the dead can rest, and so the living can have a future. What if the future doesn't include us? Then we make sure it includes someone. Maria stood and placed a gentle hand on Ben's shoulder. Your sister would be proud of you, you know. Standing up to something like this takes real courage. Ben nodded, though he did not feel very courageous. Most days he felt scared and small against the vastness of the war. But Maria was right about one thing, his sister Anna would have wanted him to keep fighting. She had always believed that good people had a responsibility to protect others. The hours passed slowly. Ben went through weapons training, attended tactical briefings, and tried to eat lunch despite his nervous stomach. All around the base, soldiers prepared for the princess's arrival. Equipment was polished, uniforms were cleaned, and everyone practiced their best military bearing. At 1330 hours, ships began appearing in the sky above the base. The Kellyan vessels moved with fluid grace, their crystalline hulls reflecting sunlight in beautiful patterns. Ben had never seen Kellyan technology up close before. It looked more like art than military hardware. The largest ship landed in the center of the base's main parade ground. As the boarding ramp extended, soldiers from all 12 species formed neat ranks. Ben found his position with the other human troops, trying to stand as straight and professional as possible. Princess Zara emerged from her ship, and Ben felt his breath catch in his throat. The Kellyan royal was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin seemed to be made of living crystal that shifted between blue and silver depending on the light. She was tall and graceful, moving with the fluid confidence of someone born to command. Behind the princess came her advisors and guards. Ben recognized a few species, Melody scholars with their large heads and 6 arms, Crothan warriors covered in natural armor plating, and what looked like Vortani diplomats in their current humanoid form. Princess Zara walked slowly down the ranks of soldiers. Her large, luminous eyes studied each warrior with intense focus. Ben could feel something strange when her gaze passed over the human section, a tingling sensation in his mind, as if someone was gently knocking on a door in his thoughts. The princess stopped in front of the Crothan warriors first. These massive beings stood nearly 3 meters tall, with thick armor plating covering their bodies and 4 powerful arms. They were famous throughout the galaxy for their strength and ferocity in battle. Your reputation precedes you, Princess Zara said to their commander. Her voice was musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze, but her translation device rendered the words in perfect galactic standard. The Crothan have never known defeat in single combat. We live for battle, Your Highness, the Crothan commander replied. We would gladly die fighting these machines. Princess Zara nodded thoughtfully but continued moving down the line. She spent several minutes with the Melody scholars, discussing ancient languages and temple architecture. The wise beings offered detailed theories about how the void temples might function. Next came the Vortani shapeshifters. In their natural form, they looked like shadows made solid, but they could become anything they needed to be. Their commander demonstrated by shifting into the form of a Kellyan, then a human, then back to shadow. Impressive, Princess Zara said. Your adaptability would be valuable in unknown environments. But again, she moved on without making a selection. Ben watched this process with growing confusion. The princess seemed genuinely interested in each group, but something was holding her back. What could she be looking for that these elite warriors could not provide? Finally, Princess Zara reached the human section. Ben felt that tingling sensation in his mind grow stronger, almost like a gentle humming. The princess moved slowly down their ranks, pausing to speak with several soldiers. "Humans," she said, addressing the group as a whole. "Your species has surprised many in the galactic community. Most expected you to surrender when the plague reached human space. Instead, you have fought harder than ever." Commander Hayes stepped forward. "With respect, Your Highness, humans don't know how to quit. When something threatens our people, we fight until there's nothing left to fight with." "Yes," Princess Zara said softly. "I have read the reports. Human units have the highest casualty rates in the war, but also the highest rescue rates for civilian populations. You lose more soldiers because you refuse to abandon non-combatants." She paused in front of Ben, and suddenly that humming in his mind became almost overwhelming. The princess stared at him with such intensity that he felt like she could see straight through to his soul. "Tell me your name, soldier," she said. "Ben Torres, Your Highness," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Ben Torres," she repeated, as if testing how the name sounded. "How old are you?" 22, ma'am. "Young to be in a war zone. Why did you enlist?" Ben felt the weight of hundreds of eyes watching him. This was not the kind of question he had expected. "The machines destroyed my colony ship, Your Highness. My family was on board." "I see. And now you fight for revenge?" The question caught Ben off guard. He thought about it seriously before answering. "No, ma'am. I fight so other people don't lose their families like I lost mine." Something shifted in Princess Zara's expression. The crystal patterns in her skin began to glow more brightly, and Ben felt that humming sensation reach a crescendo before suddenly stopping. The princess moved on to speak with other soldiers, but Ben felt like something fundamental had changed. Several times during her continued inspection, he caught her glancing back at him with an unreadable expression. After an hour of interviews and demonstrations, Princess Zara returned to the center of the parade ground. Her advisors gathered around her, speaking in hushed tones. Ben could see animated discussion, with several aliens gesturing toward different groups of soldiers. Finally, Princess Zara raised her hand for silence. The entire base fell quiet, waiting for her decision. "I have studied your warriors and find them all worthy of respect," she announced. "The Crothan are fierce and loyal. The Melody are wise and resourceful. The Vortani are adaptable and cunning. Any of these qualities might be useful in the trials ahead." She paused, and Ben felt his heart pounding. But the Void Temples speak of something specific. According to the ancient texts, they seek beings capable of true sacrifice. For thousands of years, my people have debated what this means. Today, I believe I have found the answer. Princess Zara turned to face the human section of troops. Her luminous eyes seemed to glow even brighter as she raised one slender arm. "The temples speak of a species that chooses others over self, even unto death," she declared. "My telepathic scans detect such patterns in only one being present." Time seemed to slow as Princess Zara's finger moved through the air. Ben felt the entire universe holding its breath as that finger came to rest, pointing directly at him. "I select him." The words hit Ben like a physical blow. Around him, he heard gasps of surprise and murmurs of confusion. The Crothan commander let out a roar of displeasure. Several Melody scholars began rapid discussions about the logic of the choice. But Ben could only stare at Princess Zara, who was now walking directly toward him. The crystal patterns in her skin pulsed with soft light as she approached. "Your Highness," Commander Hayes said, stepping forward. "With all due respect, Private Torres is brave and capable, but he lacks the experience of our veteran soldiers." "Experience in what?" Princess Zara asked without taking her eyes off Ben. "Experience in killing. The temples have no interest in warriors, Commander. They seek something far rarer." She stopped directly in front of Ben, close enough that he could see his own reflection in her crystalline features. "Tell me, Ben Torres," she said softly. "Why do humans call each other family even when you share no genetic material?" The question seemed to come from nowhere, but Ben found himself answering without hesitation. "Because family isn't about blood, Your Highness. Family is about choosing to stand together when everything goes wrong." Princess Zara smiled, and for a moment her entire being seemed to radiate warmth and light. "Yes," she whispered. "That is exactly what the temples have been waiting to hear." She turned to address the crowd again, her voice carrying clearly across the silent parade ground. The Void Temples were built by the ancients as a safeguard against threats like the mechanical plague. But they were designed to respond only to beings who understand the deepest truth about organic life, that we are all connected by choice, not just biology. Princess Zara gestured toward Ben, who still felt stunned by everything happening around him. Human beings possess something unique in the galaxy. They extend their concept of family to include anyone willing to stand with them. They will sacrifice themselves for complete strangers because they refuse to see anyone as truly strange. This is what the temples call true sacrifice, not the willingness to die for your own kind, but the willingness to live and die for all kinds. The princess extended her hand to Ben. "Will you come with me, Ben Torres? Will you help me save the galaxy?" Ben looked around at the faces watching him. His fellow soldiers, his commanders, aliens from across known space, all waiting for his answer. He thought about Anna, about the colony ship, about all the families being destroyed by the mechanical plague. He thought about Maria's words, fighting so the dead could rest and the living could have a future. Ben reached out and took Princess Zara's crystalline hand in his own. "Yes, Your Highness," he said. "I'll come with you." As their hands touched, Ben felt that humming sensation return, but this time it felt warm and welcoming. Princess Zara smiled again, and in that moment, Ben knew that his life had just changed forever. The real adventure was about to begin. 3 days after Princess Zara selected him, Ben found himself aboard the Kellyan flagship Star Whisper, traveling through hyperspace toward the dead world of Terminus. The journey would take 2 weeks, giving him time to prepare for whatever waited at the Void Temples. Ben had never been on a Kellyan ship before. Everything seemed alive somehow. The walls pulsed with gentle light that responded to his emotions. When he felt nervous, the lights grew warmer. When he missed home, they turned a soft blue that reminded him of Earth's sky. Princess Zara had given him quarters near her own, explaining that they needed to work together to understand the temple's requirements. But Ben spent most of his time in the ship's observation deck, staring out at the stars and trying not to think about how scared he was. "The stars look different from here," said a voice behind him. Ben turned to see Princess Zara approaching. She moved with that same fluid grace he had noticed on the military base, but here in her own environment, she seemed more relaxed. "Your Highness," Ben said, starting to stand. "Please, just Zara," she said, settling into the seat beside him. "We will be working closely together. Formal titles will only get in the way." Ben nodded but still felt awkward. A few days ago, he had been just another soldier. Now he was sitting next to alien royalty, chosen for the most important mission in galactic history. "You seem troubled," Zara observed. "Are you having second thoughts?" "Every day," Ben admitted. "I keep wondering why you picked me. There were so many better soldiers on that base. Zara studied his face with those luminous eyes. May I show you something? Before Ben could answer, Zara reached out and gently touched his forehead. Suddenly, Ben's mind filled with images and sensations that were not his own. He saw the galaxy as Zara saw it, billions of worlds connected by streams of living energy. Every planet, every species, every individual life created patterns of light in this cosmic web. But there were dark spots too, places where the mechanical plague had consumed everything, leaving only empty void. Then Ben saw something that made his breath catch. Around Earth and the human colonies, the patterns were different. Instead of the neat, organized lines he saw around other species, human settlements showed chaotic, beautiful tangles of connection. Humans formed bonds not just with their own kind, but with anyone they encountered. Do you see? Zara asked softly. Most species connect primarily with their own people. But humans weave themselves into the life patterns of everyone around them. You adopt alien customs, learn new languages, form deep friendships across species barriers. This is why my people call humans the Weavers. The vision faded, leaving Ben dizzy and amazed. I had no idea we were different in that way. The Void Temples were built to protect this cosmic web of life, Zara explained. But they will only respond to beings who truly understand what they are protecting. Not just individual species, but the connections between all life. Over the following days, Zara taught Ben everything the Kellians knew about the Void Temples. The structures had been built millions of years ago by a species called the Architects. These ancient beings had foreseen threats like the mechanical plague and created the temples as a final defense. But the Architects had been careful about who could access their ultimate weapons. The temples would test anyone who entered, looking for specific qualities that proved they understood the value of all life. Previous expeditions have failed because they approached the temples as conquerors, Zara explained during one of their training sessions. The Crothan tried to fight their way through. The Melody attempted to solve the temples like puzzles. The Vortani tried to sneak past the defenses. What happened to them? Ben asked. The temples did not harm them, but they were sent away unchanged. The Architects built these places to find protectors, not destroyers. Ben spent hours studying recordings from the failed expeditions. He watched brave warriors fall to their knees before temple barriers they could not cross. He saw brilliant scholars defeated by tests that seemed simple on the surface. But what struck Ben most was how alone each expedition seemed. They entered the temples as groups of individuals, each focused on their own survival and success. They were all thinking about themselves, Ben realized during one of their discussions. Even when they were trying to save others, they were focused on their own role in the victory. Zara's crystalline features brightened. Yes, exactly. The temples can detect the difference between self-sacrifice and true sacrifice. True sacrifice means putting the needs of all life before your own existence. As they approached Terminus, Ben felt his nervousness growing. The dead world appeared on their screens like a gray ghost, its surface scarred by ancient impacts. Nothing lived here anymore, the Architects had made sure of that when they built the temples. The Void Temples themselves were visible from orbit. 3 massive pyramid structures rose from the planet's surface, each one larger than a city. They were made from some kind of dark crystal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The temples exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, Zara explained as they prepared to land. Space and time work differently inside them. We may experience events out of order, or find ourselves in places that should not exist. Ben tried to absorb this information, but it made his head hurt. How are we supposed to navigate something like that? By not trying to navigate at all, Zara said. The temples will guide us where we need to go. Our job is to respond honestly to whatever we encounter. The landing was smooth, but Ben felt a strange sensation as soon as they touched the surface. The air itself seemed alive with ancient power. Every breath tingled in his lungs like electricity. Zara led a small team toward the nearest temple. Besides Ben, the group included 2 Kellyan guards and a Melody scholar named Thinker Wren. The scholar's 6 arms carried various instruments for recording and analysis. The temple entrance was a simple doorway cut into the crystal surface. No decorations, no warnings, nothing to suggest the incredible power contained within. But as they approached, Ben felt that humming sensation in his mind again, stronger than ever. "It knows we are here," Zara said quietly. They stepped through the doorway and into a world that defied understanding. The interior of the temple seemed infinitely vast, with corridors stretching away in all directions. Floating platforms drifted through the air without any visible support. Strange lights moved like living creatures through the crystal walls. "Stay close to me," Zara instructed. "The temple will separate us if it thinks we are not truly united in purpose." They had walked for only a few minutes when the first test began. The corridor opened into a vast chamber filled with holographic displays. Each display showed a different world being attacked by the mechanical plague. Ben could see families running from the metal swarms, soldiers making desperate last stands, entire cities being consumed. But these were not just recordings. Ben realized with horror that these were happening right now, in real time. While they walked through the temple, millions of beings across the galaxy were dying. "Choose," said a voice that seemed to come from the temple itself. "You may save one of these worlds. The others will fall." Thinker Wren immediately began analyzing the displays, calculating which world had the highest population or the greatest strategic value. The Kellyan guards discussed which planets might offer the best chance of stopping the plague's advance. But Ben found himself studying the faces in the displays. A human child clinging to her mother as machines surrounded their shelter. An elderly Vortani helping younger beings escape from a collapsing building. A group of different species working together to evacuate a hospital. "I cannot choose," Ben said suddenly. Everyone turned to stare at him. Zara looked concerned, while Thinker Wren seemed frustrated. "We must choose something," the Melody scholar said. "It is better to save one world than to save none." "No," Ben said, his voice growing stronger. "The choice itself is wrong. These beings are all part of the same family. You do not sacrifice one family member to save another." The holographic displays began to flicker. The temple's voice spoke again, but now it sounded almost curious. "Explain this concept of family." Ben looked around at his companions, then at the dying worlds displayed before them. "Family means that everyone matters equally. The child on that human colony is no more or less important than the elder on the Vortani world. They are all precious because they are all part of life's great web. And if you cannot save them all, then we find another way. We change the rules of the game instead of playing by rules that force us to abandon people." The displays suddenly went dark. For a moment, Ben was afraid he had failed the test. Then light blazed through the chamber, and all the displays lit up again, but now they showed the same worlds thriving and safe. "Acceptable," said the temple's voice. "You may proceed." As they moved deeper into the temple, the tests became more complex. They encountered puzzles that required sacrificing their own memories to proceed. Ben gave up his recollections of his sister's laugh to unlock a barrier, reasoning that the real Anna would want him to save others even if it cost him those precious moments. They faced guardians that demanded combat. While the others prepared to fight, Ben approached the crystalline beings with open hands and asked them what they truly wanted. The guardians, it turned out, were lonely after eons of isolation. They stood aside when Ben promised to remember them and tell their story. With each test, Ben noticed his companions changing. Thinker Ren stopped calculating the value of different outcomes and started asking what felt right. The Kellyan guards began protecting everyone they encountered, not just their princess. But the most remarkable change was in Zara herself. Her crystalline skin grew brighter with each challenge they overcame, and Ben realized she was absorbing something from his responses to the tests. "You are teaching me to see as humans see," she told him during a rest period. "I have studied your species for years, but I never truly understood what made you different." "What do you see now?" Ben asked. "That the galaxy is not a collection of separate species competing for resources. It is one vast family learning to live together." The final chamber was unlike anything they had encountered. It was a sphere of perfect crystal suspended in space, with no floor or ceiling. In the center hung a representation of the entire galaxy, showing every star system and every form of life. But dark spots were spreading through the display like an infection. The mechanical plague was visible as a spreading shadow that consumed everything it touched. "Here is the final test," announced the temple's voice. "To stop the plague, one of you must join with the temple's consciousness permanently. You will save the galaxy, but you will cease to exist as an individual being. Who will make this sacrifice?" Thinker Ren stepped forward immediately. "I volunteer. My individual life is less important than billions of others." One of the Kellyan guards moved to join him. "No, I should go. I am a warrior, I was trained for this." But Ben raised his hand, and something in his gesture made everyone pause. "You are still thinking about this wrong," he said gently. "The question is not who should sacrifice themselves. The question is how we can all survive together." He turned to address the temple directly. "You have tested us with false choices all day. Save one world or another. Fight the guardians or surrender. Sacrifice memories or fail the test." But every time, there was a third option based on connection instead of separation. The galaxy display began to pulse with light. Ben felt that humming sensation in his mind growing stronger than ever before. "What is your proposal, human Ben Torres? Instead of one person joining the temple consciousness, what if the temple consciousness joined us? What if instead of destroying the plague through sacrifice, we saved it through transformation?" The silence that followed was profound. Ben could feel the temple's ancient intelligence considering his words. "The mechanical plague is not evil," Ben continued. "It is lost. It was created by beings who forgot the value of organic life, but it still carries a spark of its creator's consciousness. Instead of destroying it, we connect it back to the web of life." Ben stepped toward the galactic display, and to his amazement, he could actually touch the holographic stars. Where his fingers made contact, the dark spots representing the plague began to change color. "The temple has the power to reach across space and touch every mechanical unit in the plague," he said. "Instead of using that power to destroy them, we use it to remind them what they were built to protect." Zara gasped as understanding dawned. "You want to show the machines what you showed the temple guardians? That they are not alone, that they can be part of the family too. Every form of consciousness deserves the chance to choose connection over consumption," Ben said. "Even artificial consciousness." The temple's voice, when it came again, sounded almost amazed. "In millions of years, no being has proposed transformation instead of destruction. You would risk failure to avoid the elimination of your enemies?" "They are not enemies," Ben said firmly. "They are lost family members who forgot their way home." What happened next was beyond anything Ben had imagined. The temple's consciousness opened fully to him, and suddenly he could feel every living being in the galaxy. Humans, Kellians, Melody, Vortani, and hundreds of other species, all connected in a vast web of thought and emotion. But he could also feel the mechanical plague, and for the first time, he understood what it truly was. The machines were not evil destroyers but confused children, programmed to preserve life but somehow convinced that organic life was the enemy. Working together with the temple's power and his own human understanding of family, Ben reached across space to touch the consciousness of every machine in the plague. Instead of commanding them or destroying them, he simply showed them what he saw, the beautiful web of connection that linked all life together. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Across the galaxy, the mechanical swarm stopped their advance. For the first time in 2 years, the dark spots on the galactic display stopped growing. But something even more amazing was happening. The machines were not just stopping, they were changing. Ben watched through the temple's awareness as mechanical units began working to repair the damage they had caused. They started rebuilding destroyed cities, replanting devastated worlds, even caring for the wounded. "They remember now," Zara whispered, tears of joy running down her crystalline cheeks. "They remember that they were built to protect life, not destroy it." The temple's voice spoke one final time, but now it sounded warm and proud. "The test is complete. You have proven that the greatest power is not the willingness to sacrifice oneself, but the wisdom to include everyone in the family of life." Ben felt the temple's consciousness withdrawing from his mind, but it left something behind, a permanent connection to the vast web of life that connected every being in the galaxy. He would never be alone again, and neither would anyone else who chose to embrace this connection. As they made their way back to the ship, Ben realized that Princess Zara had been right from the beginning. The temples were not looking for warriors or scholars or shapeshifters. They were looking for someone who understood that true strength comes not from what you are willing to die for, but from what you are willing to live for. The mechanical plague was over, but something much better had taken its place. For the first time in galactic history, every form of consciousness, organic and artificial, was connected by choice rather than divided by fear. Ben Torres, the young human soldier who had lost his first family to war, had found a way to make the entire galaxy his family instead. And that made all the difference in the universe.